Viewer discretion is advised. This is The Tea is Toxic. All right, you guys, we're at it again. Another Monday. I think I'm going to stick with my Mondays, you guys. I do want to eventually start doing 2 episodes, but that's going to be way down the line where I'm doing 2 episodes a week. In the meantime, I'm here to provide you with just a bit of tea to get you through the week. Hopefully you guys had a good week. January, in my opinion, is shaping up to be pretty decent. I think at this junction in our life, we have to be in a position where we make the best of every opportunity that we have. And, you know, if life gives you lemons, squeeze it in the eyes of your enemies. No, I'm joking, you guys. But I do want to get right into the episode. I know that my intro says viewer discretion is advised, but please, this time around, y'all, viewer discretion really is advised. This is a bit of a wow kind of episode, and that's one of the reasons I want to get right into it. On top of the fact, I don't want to hold y'all hostage. These episodes have been going a little longer than expected, baby. So normally I try to do my episodes between 30 to 45 minutes. I definitely don't want to go over the hour mark. And the Phyllis Hyman episode had so much content that it ended up going for an hour and 19 minutes. If you were able to sit through that entire episode, I thank you so much for your support. And if you weren't, I thank you so much for trying. But yeah, I do like to keep it more on the lower side because we all got shit to do. Okay, we can't just be sitting around all day staring at a YouTube or listening to a Spotify. We got lives. And I do appreciate those who have taken the time out to support me, listen to my episodes, comment, like, share, subscribe, follow, anything that you've done in the past. I really do appreciate you guys. I've been podcasting since 2019, and I've had different groups that I've created and names that I've made. And I think that they all could have taken off in one direction or another very successfully, but everybody has to have the same mindset. You don't necessarily have to have the same vision, but you have to trust the vision. You have to have faith in the process. And that was always the struggle for me. So going solo has felt so good. It's given me an opportunity to network with so many other people, include my friends, my family, other podcasters into the conversation. And I've just been having a blast, and hopefully you guys have been having a blast with me. So if you have been enjoying what you're listening to and the content that you're getting, definitely, please, if you can, subscribe, follow, share. I am not going to be on some of these platforms very soon. I am going to be opening up new platforms. So this is just me giving you guys the heads up. But when that time comes, I'll let you know. And that's only if you actually follow me on any of the platforms. But without further ado, we're going to get into the story of Colleen Stan. Now, you guys, I'm not going to go into any background of where she was born, how she was raised. We're going to go right into the meat and the potatoes. And on May 19th, 1977, 20-year-old Colleen Stan was hitchhiking from her home in Eugene, Oregon, to a friend's home in Westwood, California, where she was going to attend a birthday party. So Colleen, she didn't have a lot of experience with hitchhiking. She wasn't necessarily the best judge of character, which is the reason why the first 2 cars that stopped to try and give her a ride, she declined. However, when Cameron and Janice Hooker stopped to offer Colleen a ride, she felt confident. She felt like she could get to her destination. And I'm not going to lie. I think one of the main reasons why is because there was a woman in the car on the passenger side, and there was also a baby in the car. So Colleen got in that car with Janice and Cameron that day, into the back seat of the blue van, climbed next to the baby, and they were off on their way. Now, during the ride to the party, excuse me, you guys, during the ride to the party, Cameron stopped for gas. Colleen was like, you know what? It's going to be a ride. Let me go out, use the restroom. While she's washing her hands, she has this feeling of dread. And there's a voice in her head that told her, run and jump out the window and never look back. But Colleen shook the feeling off and returned to the van. And y'all know I love my little commercial breaks. Y'all, please listen to that little voice. You know you're not schizophrenic. So clearly, if you're hearing something or you're feeling or sensing something, go with that gut feeling. It'll keep you out of a lot of trouble. Okay? Now, 20 minutes into the drive, Cameron pulls off the highway, saying that he's interested in seeing some nearby caves. He parks up. Janice hops out of the car. She grabs the baby. They start going for a walk down to the lake. Colleen's watching them play at the lake when all of a sudden Cameron jumps into the back seat, puts a knife to her throat, ties her up, and then puts a box over her head. Now, here's the thing about the box. The box was like a homemade contraption, okay? It literally was designed to block out all the light, all the sound, and give very minimal air, okay? Little did Colleen know that this was actually all pre-planned by Cameron and Janice. See, they agreed that he could capture one sex slave that would take the place of everything Janice had to do. The agreement also stated that while Cameron could capture someone, he couldn't have any penetration with them. So now you have Cameron, Janice, the kidnappers, then Colleen, the kidnapped, and Lil Baby making their way to the house and not to Colleen's destination. And when they get there, Cameron strings Colleen up by her hands. She's then blindfolded, and he starts physically attacking the hell out of her. She can't do anything about it. She is being tortured officially. That is her first day of torture. Cameron becomes so aroused that he grabs Janice and starts having sex with her right under Colleen. So Colleen's strung up. Cameron's doing his big one below her with Janice while she's suspended in the air. After several hours, Cameron does eventually cut Colleen down, but he moves her to a box under his bed. And that's where Colleen stayed for 23 hours a day for the next 6 months, you guys. Now, in January of 1978, Colleen was handed a contract by Cameron to sign. This contract said that she would have to be his sex slave in order for her to have even an inkling of freedom. And she'd have to be his sex slave for the rest of her life. Colleen did not want to sign this, but doing that meant that she could get some more freedom. She didn't have to spend 23 hours in a box. So she signed the contract. The contract also changed her name from Colleen to K, just the letter K like kite. She was also forced to call Cameron master, and she was not allowed to talk without permission. You see, Cameron, he was very manipulative, and he had Colleen believing that they were being watched, or that she was being watched, by a large, powerful organization called The Company. And the deal was, if she ever tried to escape, they would not only torture her, but they would go after her family, and they'd hurt them too. He told Colleen this every day that she was there. That was just part of the 1 hour that she got out of the 23. This company, the company, they will come, they will slaughter your ass if you ever try to get away, because I am part of a big organization and you will be in big trouble trying to get away from me. Now remember, Cameron and Janice, they had that agreement that he could not penetrate Colleen. But it didn't mean that he didn't find other ways to torture her, including sexually. So unfortunately, he wasn't penetrating her, which is great, but he was orally raping her, and he was also using objects to vaginally and anally torture her. Colleen was also still spending majority of her time in that box under the bed. And then the family, they decide to move to a mobile home. And the box gets moved under the bed in the mobile home. And in 1978, Janice, the wife, ends up giving birth to a second child. But Cameron didn't take Janice to the hospital, because I don't know how many non-hospital births, at-home births there were in the 70s, but she wasn't there. This is so icky to me, but Janice was on the waterbed that Colleen was under inside the box. So now you have Colleen in this coffin type of box, 23 hours or however many hours this time around. You got Janice on top of the bed, on a waterbed, having to give birth on her own, with this nutcase Cameron just walking around. No help, no assistance, no medicine, nothing. just giving birth while Colleen lays under the bed in a box hearing her scream. A very dark place to be and to live in. Now, Colleen, she had the will to live. Her faith pushed her in that direction. And so she learned how to comply with Cameron's demands quite often. And because of that, he started giving her more freedom. This is where it gets a little interesting. She gets the kind of freedom that you wouldn't expect for someone who's kidnapped. Like, she's able to go jogging. She can work in the yard and take care of the 2 kids that him and Janice have. She's able to interact with the neighbors. The neighbors know of her. They see her around. They probably think she's the nanny at this point. She even helped Cameron build a bigger accommodation, which was an underground dungeon for even more sex slaves, y'all. Now, Colleen's fear of the company was the thing that was stopping her from escaping, in case you were wondering. Girl, you jogging, why didn't you just go? Because she was told what she was told, and she was not going to put her family in harm's way. And y'all know how that goes. Now, in 1982, Cameron even let Colleen visit her family. She was able to go home that day. Her family took a look at her. She looked a little disheveled. She had homemade clothes. She didn't have any money on her. They hadn't heard from her in years, so they knew something was off, but they didn't expect what it was that was really going on. They thought that Colleen was in a cult. And since she was in a cult, they didn't want to make it uncomfortable for her. They didn't want to bring it up. They just left it alone because they didn't want her disappearing and never speaking to them again. Colleen goes home, and then the next day, Cameron's like, you know what? You can go back. You can go see your family again, but this time, I'm going to come with you, and you can tell them I'm your boyfriend. So she does that, and she's having a good time, you know? And I know that it can seem kind of weird, like, how could you be with this man, and you're having a good time with your family? For one, the brainwashing has already set in. And being somebody who knows what it looks like when someone is brainwashed based off of things that I've seen in my life, that's not an easy thing to break out of. But secondly, I think Colleen was just trying to enjoy the moments that she had with the people that she loved. Remember that scene in The Color Purple when the mayor's wife or whatever was teaching Sophia how to drive? And she was like, you're going to see your family this Christmas. That shit. And then she goes there and Sophia's having a good time with her family, trying to start having a good time. And just that fast, the mayor's wife started having a whole fit. And she's freaking out over black men being around trying to help her not run into the house. And then Sophia has to get right back in the car and drive off. Yeah, it's kind of one of those moves. Like, I'm happy I'm here, but I know the stipulations. So I'm going to just nod and wave. You know what I mean? That's what I think was going on with Colleen. Unfortunately, even though the day was great, and Cameron and Colleen even joined the family for a family photo, it didn't leave Cameron feeling good. Because now he feels like I'm giving this bitch way too much freedom. So now Colleen's gone and she's lost all the freedom, and she goes back into that box for 23 hours a day again. Now, the kids are old enough where they're like, where is she at? They're not necessarily grown, but they know her presence. And therefore, Janice and Cameron are telling the kids that Colleen went back home. But for the hour or so that she's out is only when the kids are asleep. And that's only for Cameron to feed and torture her. Now, in 1983, Colleen was able to come back out the box, reintroduced to the kids, the neighbors. Cameron even had her working as a maid at a motel. And by 1984, Cameron had made up in his mind, you know what? It's time to make Colleen my second wife. He brings it to Janice, and Janice is like, hell no. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. That's when all the secrets come pouring out. And Janice sits Colleen down one day and tells her everything. She lets Colleen know that she was a slave also. That on the first date that she had with Cameron, he ended up kidnapping her, tortured her, brainwashed her, and gave her the name whore, which he used for years. Not calling her Janice, referring to her as whore. She said she survived the relationship by engaging in denial and compartmentalization. She also confessed that the company was real. It was a real organization, but Cameron was not part of that organization. That was all cap. They don't know him. Now, later down the line, the last bomb she dropped was to the police when she admitted that Colleen and her, whether that Colleen was not the first girl they picked up, that Cameron had actually had her help him pick up a 19-year-old girl named Marie Spinacki back in 1976. And Cameron tortured and murdered that girl at that time. Janice said that Marie was walking home when she and Cameron picked her up before driving her to their home. She was then hung up by her wrists in the basement, undressed, tortured for an entire day, then shot in her stomach with a pellet gun. Then Cameron cuts her down and gets Janice to help him wrap her in the blankets, and then they transported her to a shallow grave near the Casablanca Volcanic National Park. So, the day that Janice confesses all of this information to Colleen, Colleen walks to a payphone at a bus station, calls Cameron, and told him she was leaving him. Cameron bursts into tears. I don't know if this man thought this was a real relationship or whatever the fuck, but he gets into a frenzy, okay? She wasn't having it. She leaves. She goes home. But the wild part about it was, even though she went back home to her parents, she was still calling Cameron almost every day, like very regularly, checking on him, so on and so forth. Here's why, if you're wondering. Janice had asked Colleen not to call the police on him yet because she wanted him to get an opportunity to be reformed, okay? But within the 3 months of the time that Colleen left, not only was Cameron not reformed, surprise, surprise, he was ready to look for another female. And that's when Janice said enough was enough and called the police on her husband. She also told them about the Marie situation of the 19-year-old girl. But unfortunately, when they went to go to the location that she mentioned, they didn't see any evidence, so there were no murder charges that were able to stick for Cameron. So instead, Janice testified against Cameron in exchange for full immunity. Cameron ended up sentenced to 104 years for sexual assault, kidnapping, and using a knife in the process. On April 16, 2015, Cameron requested for parole, but was denied, and he wasn't able to be eligible again until 2030. That is until the pandemic happened. And in 2021, they reevaluated Cameron's parole. Because, I mean, let's be honest, he's old as shit at this point, right? But just because you're old don't mean you're safe. And when they reevaluated him, they classified him as a violent sexual predator. And he got moved from the prison to the Department of State Hospitals, went straight into the nut house. Unfortunately for Colleen, her attempts at a normal life have not been easy. She earned her accounting degree, but she had multiple failed marriages and ended up having a child who was so troubled that they ended up in jail. She does volunteer for the Reading Women's Refugee Center, which is an organization that helps abused women. And as for Janice, she went back to her maiden name and became a registered associate social worker and has been working as a mental health professional. So that's the story of Colleen Stan, you guys. And I think it goes without saying the toxicity is in this man, Cameron. Choose the bear, right? That's at this point, she should have gotten a car with the Berenstain Bears. Okay, with the bears that Goldilocks was up in the house fucking up the food with. Okay, but that goes without saying. What I don't like, nor do I appreciate, is that Janice got away so easily. And I understand it was a different time. Maybe they had more pity on her. And once again, she got full immunity for being so transparent and honest. However, come the fuck on. What are you talking about? You're working in any kind of social work. That should be the last thing she's allowed to do. Bitch, write a book and sit down. But working with people, because in my opinion, when you've been through something like that for that many years, and then you have helped this man attack and hold hostage not one, but two women, you helped him cover up a murder, your mind is never going to be the same. There's not enough therapy in the world to stop you from having certain habits and ways of viewing human life. I personally think that that's not possible, and this is an opinion, you guys. But I think that if you're a killer, or if you encounter, or if you interact on a regular basis with a killer, with a sadistic torturer, a sociopath, a psychopath, and or even a narcissist, and you make that your day-to-day operation, that's how you live, whether you're compartmentalizing or not, it is inevitable that you're going to pick up traits from them. It's inevitable that you're not going to have the same value of human life that you used to have. I know someone, they were raised 2-parent home, high rise in the city. They didn't starve. They never went hungry. They went to college. They did everything. And they married a narcissist. And it was like, over time, they inherently became a narcissist. And the way they value relationships with people is so dim and small because they attach themselves to someone who doesn't value human interaction, relationships, or human life. And the quality that comes when you have certain relationships with people. So now, because she's interacted with a narcissist for so long, it's almost like she's become a narcissist. So there's no way that Janice can just get off scot-free. No, that bitch is just as guilty. She doesn't value human life. So the fact that they even gave her the opportunity to work as a social worker, girl, if you want to do some kind of social work, go into the church and testify. But having the lives of other people and their traumas and their experiences in your hands as control, that can be dangerous. Because are you truly ever really healed? Or are you still, quote, compartmentalizing? Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode. Let me know your thoughts. You can comment if you want. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Hello?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. Hey. What's up with you?
Girl, so I've been doing my hair since last night. So Goosebumps dropped on Disney Plus, the new season, and it's been really good, right? Very, very nostalgic stuff like that, and they keep basing it on the 90s, and then now all the kids from the 90s are parents in the 2020s, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, boom, it dropped. They dropped all the episodes. I'm going to do my hair while I binge it, and instead I binged it and did like 10 locks.
I'm cracking up. I used to love Goosebumps. That used to be my shit.
Yo, right. Okay. Which one's your favorite one?
Oh my gosh. Was it the one with the goo? The goo that was like, that was alive or something like that? I can't even remember what it was called, but there was some sort of like magical goo. And it was like going through town. What was that called?
I think they kind of did that for this one.
Oh, really?
I think this one was the one where they kind of based it around that and the plants coming to life or whatever. Mine was always the doll, because I've been writing about dolls since I was like 4 years old and started writing and never finishing the books I write. When I tell you, it was the ventriloquist, and that was last season.
Oh yeah, the ventriloquist. Yes, I remember that one too.
And I used to write. I like, shout out to, and then we're gonna get into the current tea. Shout out to Dominique. I know you remember Dominique, and I remember we were in 5th grade, and we were on the swing, and I was new to the school. I was like a few months in, and I was like, yeah, I'm a writer. And she was like, you're a writer? And I was like, yeah, we were both 10, y'all. And so she was like, what you writing about? And I was like, oh, I write about dolls that come to life and kill families in the middle of the night. Like, real easy shit. And she was like, I'm writing a story too, a short story too. And I was like, where? She was like, yeah. She was like, it's called Little Niggas Under the Stairs. I stopped my swing so fast. I was like, excuse me?
It's called what?
She was like, yeah, girl, it's called Little Niggas Under the Stairs. I was like, elaborate. Now, granted, I'm 10. I didn't say the word elaborate, but I was like, can you give me some more detail? Like, what's the context? Like, I got like pretend asthma. What the fuck?
Get it together.
Together. Okay, so I made a mistake. I know we were talking earlier, and I was like, they extended it. Actually, they denied the bill for TikTok to be extended an additional 270 days. So TikTok will be missed. There are some things that TikTok discussed. I think TikTok was really good for like current drama, current tea. You know what I mean? But they're getting rid of it, and it seems that somebody had cracked the code, this guy. And come to find out, the reason that they're doing that shit is because a lot of these power players in the government have a lot of stock that they've put into Meta.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So nobody passed it. It was over. They were like, nah, we really want our coin.
Yeah.
They said, it's my money and I want it now. So, okay, cool. But we'll go through a few things that did come up. Okay. So, what I was saying originally, it was going to be extended. It's not going to be extended. But the move to deny the extension did backfire because they thought everybody was going to go running back to Mark Zuckerberg's bitch ass
I know.
app. And nobody did that. They actually all ran to another Chinese app and made it the number one app downloaded on Google and Play stores within like the last 48, 72 hours. So that was a backfire.
Yes. What is it called again?
Rednote.
Rednote?
I think it's Rednote. And the thing is, Rednote is pretty much like Pinterest, like a Chinese Pinterest.
Okay, because I haven't gotten on there, so I don't know what it's
I haven't either. And one of the reasons, you know, it's interesting because it's like, even though it's like a Pinterest, Americans are showing up like, ew, the ghetto, like, because literally we don't care. Like, we showing up and showing out. And one of the funny ones, I've been watching like different TikTokers, and they're like, me going to China, telling someone, hello, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Like, first of all, super offensive, but also very funny. And two things can exist in the same space. So, you know, there's been a lot of positive reviews and feedback from that app. The Chinese users are very inviting. Even one of them, they said, in the club, we all fam. But what I want to touch on about it is this, okay? Do you think we as Americans are finally getting tired of being held by the system? And if so, do you think that this small act is the start of a rebellion and the collapse of government?
Ooh, okay, so those are big questions. So first of all, I'm thinking about that, like in terms of the push to get rid of a particular social media platform. I definitely have thought about that being an effort to control the narrative. Probably many different narratives, right? Like, so making sure that people understand that certain storylines have to remain alive and have to be in play for the powers that be to continue to have control over, like, us as a mass population, right? Yeah. So I was thinking, that's a really long answer, but the point is being that, like, I definitely thought about that. Like, what if all of this is just an effort to control? Again, not to control because they don't want you on there, but an effort to control the actual narrative. And so there's that. And I do think that to some extent, many people are, I think, waking up to the truth of how things operate in this world. Really specifically from the government perspective, I think that we've definitely seen, like, a completely different format of, like, how government is being ruled with the Trump administration, with, you know, even the Obama administration, right, the first black president ever. So I just think that we are probably moving towards that, like, this collective freedom, you know? Yeah. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I definitely think that that's the direction that we're moving.
And it's interesting because, you know, with us moving over to this Rednote, because me personally, I can't speak for anyone else. I have been and will continue to remove different meta apps out of my life for multiple reasons. I am the type of individual where I don't need to join a bandwagon to decide I no longer want to subscribe to being held under that matrix, So for me, I don't need somebody to say, hey, let's all just shut it down. Bitch, I was shutting it down starting October. Y'all just getting here.
Yeah,
right?
That is very true. Yeah.
Exactly. But interestingly enough, with us going over there, we are asking questions. And I say we as a collective, as Americans, we're asking different questions. And one of the questions that came up was, what's something you think you know about Americans, right? And like the woman said, a lot of times we think people are going to say, oh, Americans are fat, oh, Americans are lazy, or okay, yeah, they did say we're fat. However, what they did say was, you think you're free and you're not. You live in a company.
Yes.
You're not free. And there's been a lot of controversy. I don't want to get too much into the conspiracies, but you guys can definitely look up this thing that they are talking about called smart cities, and that there was no mistake to the fires that are happening in California. It's the attempt to build what they're calling smart cities. And a girlfriend of mine actually just sent a post with the police chief, allegedly, I'm going to say accidentally with heavy quotes, stating the fires that we started, quote unquote, at the end of what his sentence was. And what I explained to her was, we get played with in our faces, so they can do whatever they want because we choose ignorance. You have two sides, right, of a coin. You have one side that is choosing to wake up, be aware of the narrative that's being pushed in front of them and figuring out ways to remove themselves from that. And then you have those who are very comfortable, very complacent, submissive. They're simps. And they want that 9 to 5. They want that worker bee life. They don't want to have their day-to-day life be frazzled with the world's problems, the country's problems.
People want to be told what to do and how to act. Yeah, they don't actually want to be free thinkers, and you can see that on just by reading the comments. Sometimes you'll see a few comments say the exact same thing verbatim. Now, there could be an argument that that's like a bot, but I really think that some of it is because people don't have their own, mind or thoughts. They're just repeating or regurgitating what they've heard over and over. I agree with you.
And I understand the idea of half the things that are happening in this world, they can't tell us because majority would lose their minds.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. They would. They would lose their effing mind because they're not in the place to want to wake the hell up. So naturally, if you don't want to be awake and you want to stay, it's perfect example. They say do not touch a sleepwalker.
Yeah.
Because if you do, they're going to just lose it. That's what it is. These are sleepwalkers. These are the zombies. We're worried about a zombie apocalypse. We interact with zombies on a regular basis.
Yep. Yeah, many people are walking around asleep. And the thing about it is that they have a choice. They're choosing to continue to be asleep. They're choosing to continue to just play along to get along. And I think that I really truly believe, again, I don't have the numbers, right? And I'm just like a small fish in a really big pond, but I will say that I've been interacting with more and more people who are, quote unquote, waking up, right? And so that, I think, makes me feel good about the fact that, okay, I'm not on this island by myself, but a lot of people are starting to figure things out. And when I say a lot, that's what I'm saying. I can't necessarily quantify that, but I feel like it's a lot. I feel like more people
way more than it used to be.
Are getting more with it. This sort of conversation you probably could not have had 20 years ago.
Yeah, back in the day, they used to call it conspiracy theorism, and you're a nut basket, and you need Jesus, and and it's slowly starting to fade away because eventually, if you take a step back and you really look at the full scope of it, right, and you're like, I don't have to live in this globe. There's a bigger, more sound world around me. I can choose to stay in this bubble of ignorance, or I can choose to step out of it. And the crazy part about it is, What I will say, I wouldn't wish this life or this mindset on anyone, because once you're out, you're out. You can't go back in.
Right.
To go back in would literally kill you. But I will go ahead and make it a little lighter. We're going to move on to the next subject. Okay, so this was on there. Y'all work with me. This is going to be a wild story. Okay. Quick but wild. There's a man who... So in Arizona, let me just start with this. In Arizona, there's a coffee shop. The coffee shop is called Bikini Beans. Super cute. It's pretty much like... It's almost like a Hooters coffee shop. It's like if Starbucks had an OnlyFans. Okay? So the workers, they walk around in very skimpy outfits, bikinis, lingerie, just real sexy, okay? Cool. The purpose still is to get coffee, just like when you go to Hooters. Yeah, just when you go to Hooters, the purpose is not to squeeze a woman's double D's, it's to order some wings and watch a game. Okay. Yeah. Let's just enjoy what's going on around us. But there was a man, I'm going to leave his name anonymous, who was not just enjoying the scenery. Now, Bikini Beans had a drive-thru, okay? And this man, it seems, was having an issue with pulling through the drive-thru, dick out.
Oh.
And of course, nobody is going to believe that this man just keeps going through the drive-thru with his dick out, and they're like, yo, we're not going to service you if you're going to be a creep. And the last time he did it was the last time he did it, because that time when he pulled up, they had their camera out and they're recording, and they called the police, and they're like, we're not going to serve you. Your pants are off. Your dick is out. We're not doing this. They post him up. I guess it starts to get some traction online. He starts going viral, and he offs himself. He unalives himself. This man was a father, and this man was a husband. Okay? People are torn. Per the norm, the media is torn. Some people feel like that's what happens when you're half dressed as a woman. You know that misogynistic nonsense. WeHateWomen.com.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, the 77,000, right, from the group chat. That's what happens when, as a woman, let's slut shame everyone. And then the others are like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You're a fool. You're sneaky. You're a weirdo. Why would you even show up to an establishment like that, even if you're in your car?
Right.
What are your thoughts, friend?
I mean, okay, so hear me out. Like, I'm not going the misogynist route. However, sometimes I have to question, like, what are your intentions, right? Because why, like, for what reason would you have this sort of, like, coffee shop? Like, when really at the end of the day, the purpose is to, like, serve people coffee. And I would even argue the same thing for, like, a Hooters establishment. Like, I never really got into or understood the whole premise other than to really, on its face, sell sex. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? Like, you sexify something to make it more appealing, right? Like, so, now, with that being said, though, that doesn't allow that doesn't allow people to use that as an opportunity for advancement in a negative way, right? Like, that doesn't give you carte blanche to just be a disrespectful, like, asshole.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just, but it does, like, sometimes you want to question, like, okay, well, what did you think could happen if you, like, had a place like that? And so I'm torn. I am actually torn. So forget about the torn side, but, like, I'm torn because, like, I definitely don't think that people, like, I don't want to excuse his behavior because that's just disgusting and gross, right? Because even if you do go to, like, a strip club or you engage with a sex worker, everybody deserves to be respected at the end of the day, right? Like, just because you're a sex worker does not mean that you deserve to be raped, right? Like, that, like, we're not going to do that. But at the same time, like, when do we, I think, draw the line and make sure that we are protecting, like, things like real sex work versus, like, these places and establishments where sex should not really be an issue or introduced into the narrative, and it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense, because I really am.
Yeah, I think you are. But I think that the sex industry in any aspect is just as common as being a farmer. And the reality is that at a certain age, you should be mature enough to understand that there's a time and place for things. And I think by becoming a father and a husband, he's at an age where he knew right from wrong, and he chose wrong. Because just because you find a woman attractive doesn't mean that you should, I don't know, kidnap her, put her in a box and hide her under a bed. You know, that's the weirdness of it. You are not entitled to reducing someone's value down to a fantasy in your mind and creating that into a reality. It's the audacity. It's the audacity to think that you have ownership over people, how they choose to dress, how they choose to move, how they choose to run their business, that you are entitled to violate them because of your idea of their image.
Yeah, no, you know what? I want to make it very abundantly clear that, like, I 100% agree with your premise. I totally agree. That's what I want to make that clear, that, like, he is gross and definitely should not have done what he did, and that was very disrespectful, rude, and really, like, deserves, like, a charge. So, you know.
Yeah, he gave himself a charge, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was just about to say, and I think him offing himself was really the cowardly way to go out, right? Like, and that's just, but that's, to me, it's to be expected, and understand it way more now that, like, you know, you just mentioned that, you know, he's a husband, he's a father, like, of course, right? Like, you want to keep your dirty secret a secret. And that's the unfortunate part about, really, I think a lot of these sorts of creepazoids that do these sorts of things is, like, they get off on the secret of it all, right? And I think just the exposure, because genuinely, like, that was a crime, right? But I don't know that, like, it was a crime so worth him, like, offing himself. But I mean, I don't know, that's him, and I don't mean to, like, laugh at somebody, like, killing themselves, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's interesting to see that was the straw, right, that broke the camel's back. And I'm just like, if your wife and kids found out, why would you be so, I don't know, so humiliated to the point of where you would rather just not be here? Like, that's pretty intense, in my opinion.
But that's the crazy part.
And so I'm like, you're going to great lengths to keep this secret. Wow.
And that's what blows my mind. And that's the interesting thing about cheaters, right? And honestly, I'm not here to shame you cheaters. I just think you guys are cowards. Whatever you want in your life, just say you want that. And if the person can't get on board, then find a new person or be alone. But the thing that kills me about it is, no pun intended, the thing that kills me about it is that you knew what you were doing. You're cognitive, right? Your mind tells you what's right from wrong. You make a decision, and then you try to backtrack that decision. Stand 10 toes down. Stand on big business.
Oh,
I stand on big business. Like, stand on it. Stand on it. If you did it, you did it. But why are we playing the run and hide and be the victim game? I don't like victim. And it almost is like, it's almost like he did that. Yes, it was cowardly, like you said. But it's almost like he did that shit so he could turn the narrative to be the victim.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? Because people will hold up. That's ego-driven. That's an ego-driven decision. Some people, I mean, not some people, many people hold on to their idea that, you know, that they want to be perceived in a good light, no matter what the circumstances are. That's like, it's like fight or flight and overdrive, right? Like, he just could not hold on. I mean, like, he did not want to have the image that either his wife, children, the public, his professional peers, like, had of him. Like, so much so that he just was like, you know what, I would rather not be here. And that's just crazy to me. That's also, like, a larger conversation about, like, ego and how much it drives people to make such, like, really crazy decisions.
Disgusting.
Girl.
But thank you so much for joining.
No problem.
Appreciate you. I mean, till next time, we could definitely have more conversation off of here, but, you know, that's the current tea. So,
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
But till next time, I'll talk to you later.
All right, girl.
Bye.
Bye.
What is fear? It's an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. And why do we spend so much time living in fear? Why do we pick apart our lives to find things to be afraid of? You know, it's so interesting because when it comes to the idea of something, of ourselves being great, something bigger than ourselves being great, the ability to change and manifest everything that we would want in our life, we're afraid of that. We fear the unknown, but the interesting thing about fearing what we don't know is coming is that we have control issues. Not just me, you, and yes, you too. We all struggle with thinking that we are in control of things. And whenever we think in our minds of something that is beyond our control, not within our reach of being able to control, that is when we allow fear to enter our hearts and our minds. And that becomes our defense mechanism. Interestingly enough, though, when we think we're in control of things, we're no longer afraid. But the reality is, we, every day of our lives, tackle and take on day-to-day nuances, new experiences, old experiences with bravery, without fear. And that's all a lot of scary shit. You know, I grew up in New Jersey, and then about 5 years ago, in March of 2020, or the last day of February 2020, I had purposed in my heart that I was going to leave New Jersey, pack everything I could in a small Kia Rio Gold, and drive out to Atlanta to start a new life for myself and my 3 children. The idea of that, through my 20s, through my first marriage, through my divorce, was scary. I was afraid of it. But once I had purposed in my mind and in my heart that I didn't have any other choice but to make a change so drastic that it could save all 4 of our lives, that's when fear no longer played a part in my life. And it wouldn't be interesting if I incorporated that same bravery, that same ability to fight and push through the things that are the unknown. Wouldn't it be amazing if I incorporated that into my entire life? I'm sure that you can each think of a time in your life where you got sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you made up in your mind, there's no other option. I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it happen. Life is for the living. And in living, unexpected turns happen. We need to readjust our mindset on how we view the things we don't know. Let's learn how to tackle life. Let's learn how to tackle our future. Let's learn how to tackle these new experiences with joy, with anticipation, with excitement. Let's start getting away from things like anxiety, fear, anger. Because I don't know about you, but I'm definitely someone who only understood for a very long time, based off of how I was raised, that there's extremely happy and rage. And there's nothing in the middle, but there are so many other beautiful emotions that we can hold on to and grasp and experience outside of anger, outside of fear, anxiety, doubt. That's a very big one. But I think they all fall under the umbrella of being afraid to try and see things in a different light. I want you to use this weekend and the rest of the week to do a different approach. When you think of something that you would not expect you would be able to accomplish, pay attention to what that feeling is in your gut. And then tell yourself, this is exciting. You don't have to say it out loud, say it internally. This is exciting. I am excited. And let's start realigning our state of mind so that we can grasp onto everything that we want.